Chef Ben, and this is Dinner with Ben. Tonight I'm going to make some pork chops. I'm going to roast them in a hot oven fairly quickly. The oven's on 450. It's preheated. I'm going to put them on a pan, roast them with some barbecue sauce, get them nice and charred. I am craving like charred meat, like, you know, that kind of crispy, fatty, charred flavor. That's what I want. I'm dying for it. So I'm going to cook that up. I'm going to make a little bit of mashed potato. I'm going to make some green beans probably or something. I'm not sure yet. So stay tuned, and we're going to roast some meat. Okay, so because we're cooking our pork super hot oven, it's not going to take long, so I actually want to get the potatoes on first. I just have 2 potatoes. These are like white potatoes, so the skin is actually super thin, so I'm not even going to bother peeling them. I'm just going to give them a wash, cut them up, and then I'll boil them. And then the skin actually adds fiber as well. So we'll wash them, and then we'll just cut them into even pieces, throw them in a pot. Give them a rinse real quick to rinse some of the excess starch off. Alright, potatoes are on. I'm just going to salt the water. Ideally, you want it to taste like seawater, whether you're doing pasta or potatoes or anything like that. You always want your water to taste like seawater. Otherwise, it's not going to be salty enough. And again, the salt actually raises the boiling point of the water so that it kind of cooks quicker. And your oven may have a vent on it, so my oven vents into the back left-hand burner, or right-hand depending on which way you're facing. So if I'm cooking something in the oven, I usually try and use that burner just to kind of capture some of that heat that's coming out of there instead of just wasting it, right? So if I was cooking the potatoes on that burner, the heat coming out of here would be completely wasted. This way it's going to help kind of boil the potatoes a little bit. Okay, so we're going to make a really basic barbecue sauce. It's going to be ketchup based, some maple syrup, a little bit of spices, but super simple. I'm hungry, I don't want to overcomplicate this, okay? So we'll start with some ketchup. Add a bit of maple syrup. I have probably half a cup of ketchup in there and a quarter cup of maple syrup. We're going to add a bit of white vinegar, not much, about a tablespoon. I have like a touch of onion powder, like, I don't know, like a quarter teaspoon. Looks like. Let's go half a teaspoon of granulated garlic. We'll put about a teaspoon of mustard powder. And we're going to put that shake. About a tablespoon of Frank's Red Hot. You could use any hot sauce you wanted. Okay? We'll give this a stir and a taste. You could use molasses or honey or brown sugar instead of maple syrup. Just happens to be what I have on hand. Good enough. So I don't have a proper kind of broiling pan. So what I do is take a baking sheet with a high lip on it. This one has about an inch of a lip. Put a little bit of water on it and then just use a cooling rack. Put that down. So what the water is going to do is when the fat drips from the pork, instead of just burning onto the pan, it's going to collect in the water. It's just way easier to clean. You just got to keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't boil dry, because then your pan's going to warp and it's going to get weird. So what we're going to do is pat our pork dry with some paper towel. So we'll actually just put the pork down. These are pretty nice pork chops actually, considering they're just from the grocery store. So I'm patting these dry because otherwise, A, the barbecue sauce isn't going to stick to them, and B, they're not going to brown very nicely, if at all. That's why we're patting them dry. Okay. Beauty. Barbecue sauce. I use the term barbecue quite loosely, although this does taste pretty good, if I'm being completely honest. Let's brush that on there. And then, I'm just going to pop this in the oven. The oven's at 450. Careful not to spill any of the water that's in here. And we'll let that go for 10 minutes. Okay, so in about 30 seconds, our timer is going to go off. And that'll be the end of the first 10 minutes that the pork has been in the oven. While I was waiting, I just got a little pot, put some green beans in it. They're not cooking or anything like that, they're just sitting there. So when our pork dings, all I'm going to do is take it out, flip it over, brush the underside with sauce, and put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. By the time it comes out after that second 10 minutes, it should be pretty much done. At which point, I'm going to turn the broiler on and I'm going to just brown it, like get a real nice color on it. Yeah, so I'm just going to stop the camera, I'm going to do this, and I'll come back at the end of the second 10 minutes. There's about 3 minutes left on the second 10 minutes of the pork, but my potatoes are done. So I'm going to drain them. I'm going to heat up a little bit of butter and milk in the pot. Let the potatoes steam dry a little bit. I'll explain that in a minute. And then by that time, the pork should be ready to come out in the broiler to go on. Super exciting. So, let's drain the potatoes. Pot back on the burner. And I'm going to add like just a couple tablespoons milk. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. And some salt and pepper, of course. So what's happening here, I don't know if you can see the steam coming off here. Because the potatoes are boiled and they're very porous and absorbent, they absorb tons of water. And so when you drain them, if you just drain them and then immediately throw them back in the pot and mash them, all that water is going to come out into your mashed potatoes and you're going to get kind of wet, gross mashed potatoes. So if you let the potatoes steam dry for a minute or two, it's actually going to draw that moisture out. And then when you mash them, you won't get all that liquid. It'll just be the cream or milk or whatever. So that's why I'm doing that. And can't really see, I don't know. I didn't show you before, but it's very white now that the moisture is evaporating. And even you just feel it. It's not the same texture. It's hard to explain, but I really recommend you try doing this. And as soon as you see it, you'll be like, oh, that's what that crazy guy was talking about. The crazy guy. So I'm heating up the milk and the butter, which I know a lot of people don't do at home, but this way when you add your potatoes in or back in, you're not cooling them down with cold milk and cold butter, right? Like that to me just makes sense. You want equal temperatures. And that way the potatoes will stay hot. If you add hot potatoes to hot milk and butter, they're going to stay hot for longer. If you add hot potatoes to cold milk and butter, the milk and butter are going to drop the temperature of the potato and they're going to get cold. And it makes sense. Right? Doesn't it? So I don't need to bring the milk up to a boil. I just really want to take the chill off it. Just enough really to melt the butter. So that's done. Our potatoes have steamed dried. Just going to give this a quick mash. Because I left the skin on these, I'm not looking for a super smooth mashed potato. This is going to be more of a smashed potato. I'm going to pop that pork out real quick. When you do this, remember that you have water in the bottom of your pan, and don't burn yourself on it. Now with potatoes, especially if you're doing a big meal like a Thanksgiving meal or Christmas or something like that, or you have a bunch of people over, you can make these a little bit ahead of time, especially if you use hot butter and hot milk as opposed to cold. So mash them up, put a lid on it, and then it'll sit for like 20 minutes hot. 20 minutes, half hour. Especially if you leave it like on your stove, not on a burner, but just on the stove, it's already hot. It'll last for a long time. And that way you're not like in a big mad rush when everything's kind of finishing to get everything done. Okay, so the broiler should be nice and hot now. I'm going to pop the pork back in and get it nice and brown. When you get to this point, when you start broiling your pork, if you do this, you don't want it to be all the way cooked, right? Because it's going in a very hot oven, very high heat. So it's going to continue to cook. You want it to be about 80% of the way done. Because it's going to happen quick. That sauce is going to brown quick. So you're also going to need to keep an eye on it because you don't want it to burn. It's really important. And I just turned on my green beans. They're in the back burner there. Okay, they've been in there about 5 minutes. I'm going to pull them out, flip them over, and then go for another 3 or 4 minutes. The pork is about 2 more minutes in the oven, but the green beans are done. So I'm going to turn those off, drain them, hit them with a little butter, salt, pepper. And then by the time I'm done that, pork should be ready to come out of the oven. Okay, I'd say the pork is ready to come out. I'm super excited. I am starving, so this is going to be awesome. They look beautiful, nice and caramelized. I'm going to bring you over and show you. See that? That is exactly what I want. So I'm going to plate, and while I'm plating, these will rest. They're not going to need too long because they're not very thick. So we're just going to take some of our potato, which is still nice and hot. Put that in the middle of our plate. There. Perfect. And then one of our pork chops. Simple and delicious. So, again, really simple meal. Took me about 40 minutes from start to finish. Probably could have done it quicker, but oh well, wasn't in a rush. So I'm Chef Ben. This is Dinner with Ben. If you like this, check me out on Instagram for tons of cool cooking tips and information. That's at Chef Ben Kelly. You can check me out on Twitter at Chef Ben Kelly as well, or you can follow me on Facebook at Ben Kelly Cooks. And all those places have really cool tips and tricks about cooking and information and recipes. Each platform might have some different things. Hey, I'm Chef Ben. I'll see you later.